Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sasquatch Theory. In today's video, we have Tim on the show, and he wants to share his Bigfoot encounter that he had in the state of Pennsylvania. Tim is an experienced outdoorsman, and he would be going out to this property to bow hunt, and every time he was being stalked by an unknown creature. Tim tried to switch up his hunting locations, but every time it seemed like this thing knew exactly where he was at, and it was able to locate him no matter what he tried. It's certainly a frightening experience, and it got to the point where he thought he was going to have to put this thing down and that he could possibly lose his life whitetail hunting in this area. Tim seems like a really honest person, and you can tell that the witness was very shaken up over the encounter and he never went deer hunting again. If you enjoy listening to Sasquatch Theory, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you can. A lot of people have complained in the past that they have been unsubscribed from the channel, so if you guys can check on that and possibly resubscribe, I would really appreciate it. Also, if you have a Bigfoot encounter that you would like to share from your neck of the woods, please contact me at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. Alright, Sasquatch theorists, you know the drill. With all of that being said, let's dive into this next Bigfoot encounter from the state of Pennsylvania. All right, Tim, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good.
Good to hear, Tim. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. And if you would, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and your Bigfoot experiences from the very beginning, please.
Well, my name's Tim, and I'm from Pennsylvania, along the upstate New Jersey, PA border there on the Delaware River area. And when I was young, 30 years ago, I became an avid archery hunter, man. I loved to be out in the woods, and I never had a fear of anything like that. I used to get out there early, sit there and like an hour before daybreak in the dark, so everything would cool down and calm down. And that's what I did, hunting and fishing, my whole life. That's basically the way it all started,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And okay.
All right. Would you describe your first experience? What were you doing that day? Put me in your shoes and just explain everything in full detail, please.
Okay. Well, when I had a woman my sister knew that had all this land out there that nobody hunted on. And she didn't really want me to hunt on it, but I talked her into let me go out for archery only, you know what I mean? And she said, okay. And so it took me like the first whole year of going out there to just get to know the area, I finally got to know the area, and it's like she told me she had ancestors buried on the land. They were like an Indian family, I think they were. And it's like after like a whole year hunting there, I had no fear of that whole area, the woods and everything. It was a beautiful place. It was awesome, that I seen deer banging horns, right in front of me. I used to watch them. And then it started like the total I hunted there was a total of 3 years. And then it started to where like I'd get out there at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'd take my good old time getting out to my tree stand and all that. And it just felt like something was watching me, all the time. It felt like something was watching me when I'd be walking through there with the flashlight crackling through the leaves. I guess it would be late October. and I just had that spooky feeling after like a whole year of being there without no problems. I just felt like something was watching me. And then like the second year, I never saw anything out of the ordinary except for deer and the animals that are normally supposed to be there. And then the second year of being there, it started again, that eerie feeling, And me walking through the leaves, making a lot of noise, with my flashlight, that second year, I started hearing other things like down the side of the ravine, like it was flanking me or whatever you would call that. I started hearing things like that, like something was following me, And still, I never saw anything or anything out of the ordinary other than that, but it just gave me like a spooky feeling. So that went on. This is after 2 years of hunting there. Now, the third year of hunting there, I start the opening day archery season again. The same thing starts happening to me, like something's like following me. And so it got to the point to where I park the truck, I go walking out. I'm walking through the leaves, really trying to be as quiet. It takes me a good hour and a half to get out to my tree stand. I'm walking, the leaves are making noise. So I'm looking over to my left. I'm pointing the flashlight and like, what the hell's over there? Something's following me again. I got that feeling again. So you ain't gonna believe what I did. I got like spooked, man. So I actually took my shoes off. And I'm walking through the leaves as quiet as I can, man. Like something's following me. I turned my flashlight off, and because I knew where I was going, all I had to do was stay on the trail. And I could hear this thing coming down, on the side of me over there. So I get out to my tree stand, and I didn't climb up the tree or nothing like that, as far as I remember. I'm just hanging like under the tree stand with the bow. I didn't have any kind of other weapon on me at the time, just a knife. And here comes this thing closer, all around me. This thing was circling around me, making all kind of noise, right? And I know the deer up there. I know bear and all that. It wasn't anything like that. It was just like making all kind of noise. It wasn't really roaring or yelling the first time at me like that. And then it scared the living shit out of me is what it did. Excuse my language. So that ended. And then I'm trying to remember, I went home after that. Everything was quiet. When daybreak came, there was no birds, no nothing. And you guys always talk about a smell, a bad odor. I didn't really smell anything like that. But I was talking to my wife about that, and there was a couple times I smelled like a musty smell, but it wasn't real seriously bad or anything like that. So that evening, I'm only living a few miles away from this area. So that evening, I want to get up and go out for the afternoon hunt. You know what I mean? So I do this again. I guess about 2:30 in the afternoon, I start my trek out there to get out to that spot. So I walk out there, and everything's good and quiet. Everything's the same. I get up in my tree stand, and I'm watching. There's a bunch of deer and does out in the field and stuff like that. Where they normally would come out at. There's a big alfalfa field down there. I could hear this thing in the woods. It was like breathing in, sucking air in its lungs. And it starts roaring at me, man. Like the whole valley was echoing with this thing screaming. I mean, I never heard anything like it. It was like impossible to hear because it was too loud. You know what I mean? It was like so loud. I never heard anything like that in my life, And it scared the hell out of me up there. I was shaking, and it came around my tree again and was in my tree, roaring, yelling, screaming, and carrying on. That's what it did to me. So I go home again. I tell my wife about it and all. I'm like, what the hell is this thing? Back then, I never even talked about Bigfoot. I never, you know what I mean? We didn't, there was no fear of anything like that in the woods. I'd walk out there without any weapons or nothing and sleep out there. That's how comfortable I was, And then the next morning, this happened like for 5 mornings and 5 nights. Every time I went there, it's like this thing could smell me or whatever, however it knew, but it knew where I was at every single time. I tried to hide from it and it found me, you know? And then I can get into where I'm out there sitting. I'm sitting, I go through the same gulch again with all the leaves again crackling. And again, I feel like something's watching me. And then up behind my left shoulder, there's like a high gulch, I called it. It was pretty high up there. It would take me a good half hour or more to climb up there, you know. I'm sitting there just watching everything. There was a bunch of deer out in the field. And all of a sudden, I hear something come crashing down through the trees behind me on my left side. And I turn to the left and look, and here comes a deer. It was a doe, comes slapping down through all the tree branches and smashes like 6 to 10 feet right off to me on my left, right near a stump. And there was a deer laying there with a broken back, just kicking, you know what I mean? And I'm like, what the hell? I thought maybe it ran off the top up there and got hurt, but it never really occurred to me that maybe this thing threw that at me and said, here's a deer, get the hell out of here or something. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's frightening.
But that was pretty strange, you know? And this stuff went on, and I brought my camera and everything with me because I was going to get a picture of this thing, whatever it was, you know. And then the next morning, I got my buddy. His name was Fred. He was a pretty big guy, biker guy. And he wanted to go up there with me. He's not afraid of nothing and all that. So I put him out in the morning before daybreak, right where that deer came over the side at. That's where I let him stand. And I walked across the other corner of the field, which was a couple 100 yards away. And I went up in my tree stand. And that was pretty intense this morning, man. Before daybreak even got there, it's still pitch black. You can't see nothing, you know, unless you use a flashlight. There's an alfalfa field to my right. And then on the other side of that, there's a donkey farm, or I don't know what it was. I never really ventured over there. I know there was donkeys in the field. I could hear these donkeys freaking out. They were hee-hawing and ruckus all over the place. And I'm thinking to myself, that's the first time I ever heard them doing that. I knew they were over there. You know, that told me right there that maybe this thing's coming, you know? So before I know it, I can hear it. It was coming. It knew where I was at. And I could hear it filling its lungs up with air. And the thing that was spooky about that is it took him like 15 seconds to fill his lungs up with air and let it out and roar, and just loud. It was so loud that you wouldn't believe it. It roared the whole valley out. And here it comes at me again. You know, it's coming over at my tree stand again. This time I bring my 357 Magnum. I had it on my side. I loaded my own shells, 158 grain bullets. I'm waiting for this thing to come under my tree again. And it's coming up to me. I guess it took quite a while to get across them fields, but I could hear it coming the whole time it was carrying on because it knew I was there, didn't want me there. And so it gets under my tree stand again, and it's circling me, and it's ripping bushes out of the ground. And that nobody could do that. I mean, that's like mountain laurel, you know what I mean? You can't tear that stuff out of the ground.
Yeah.
And it was carrying on, freaking out. And my buddy Fred is over in the other tree. I didn't even think about him over there. He could hear all this stuff. And it's carried on so bad that I'm standing up in my tree, and I had the bow and arrow. I'm shaking. I was shaking so bad that the arrow fell down fell down into the ground, right? So I'm looking, trying to see this thing, and I'm looking down, and it's right under my feet, roaring at me, yelling and screaming and carrying on. So I pulled a 357 Magnum out. I can't see it, but I could tell right where this thing head would be, right at my feet, you know. And I cocked the gun, and I'm thinking, if I fire this gun, I'm going to shoot it in the head and kill it, or I'm going to wound it and it's going to rip me out of this tree and it's going to kill me. That's what I'm thinking. So I didn't know what to do. I decocked the gun, and all of a sudden it stopped. It shut up. And I'm like, wow. And it went and tore up right up the side of that gulch, the cliffside area, and was roaring and yelling at me up from the top of that thing. And that's when daybreak's coming. That's the only time I can see a silhouette of this thing. And it was probably about 7 or 8 feet tall, but I couldn't really see any features or nothing like that. I'm being honest with you. It's the only time I ever got a look at it, and it wasn't no bear or anything like that. It was on 2 feet. And daybreak finally comes. It started snowing a little bit. Check this out. It starts snowing. So I climb down the tree. I go over to where Fred was, and he's not there anymore. He's gone. I walk all the way back through the gulch and to my truck. He's in the truck, and he's telling me, oh, my God, I thought this thing killed you, man. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have no truck keys or nothing. He thought this thing killed me. That's how bad it carried on, you know? So I told him, I said, no, I don't think it wants to hurt me, man, because I told him what I did with the gun. And when I decocked it, it shut up, you know, and it stopped. It's like, it seemed like it was pretty smart, you know. And I told Fred, I said, let's go climb up to the top of that gulch up there and see if we can see any footprints or anything like that, because it's snowing. And he agreed with me, and we went up there, and I could not find any footprints whatsoever. Nothing, no traces, no signs of anything like that. Only deer prints, you know. And that's the way it happened, man. You know, it was crazy. I never ever went hunting again after that, because I don't know what made me keep going back out there again, but after that, there was always a fear, you know, that something is in them woods, that we don't know about, you know, and you know, that's about the best I can remember it, Miguel.
Okay, Tim. Well, I appreciate you for sharing that with me. Can you describe the vocalizations, the screaming, the yelling? What did it sound like? What can you compare it to?
This thing would fill up its lungs like I'm short of breath all the time, so I'm going to try. It would go like that. You would hear it sucking the air in, and it would start roaring like louder than a lion, man. I don't know how. It seems like I don't even want to tell you, because you might laugh at me. You know, it's just I never heard anything that could yell that loud, and it would hit you. You know what I mean? It would, like, the sound would hit you. You know? And the people that live in the surrounding area up there, they had to hear that. I mean, somebody had to hear that, because it's a pretty big forest up there in woods. But where I was at, the lady that owned the property, her house was maybe 1,000 yards away from that. I mean, it was really loud, and it would roar, and it would yell, and it would scream, and it would almost sound like at the end of each roar, like I can't like repeat it. It would almost have like a raspy sound at the end of it. You know, it was weird. You know, that's about the best I could describe it. There was nothing I ever heard of in the woods. I hunted bear all over the place. You know, I've been in Wyoming. I never heard anything like that. You know, nothing. But the thing about it was, this thing was so smart, and it knew when to come in to try to frighten me off or whatever. It knew exactly when to do it, because the woods, you know how the woods is dark. It did it before daylight every time, and before, you know, after the sun went down, before I would leave to go back to my truck, that's when it would encounter me again, when it was dark. It made sure I couldn't see it, you know. It did not want me seeing. Yeah, how did it go up there at the top of that gulch and was roaring and carry on when that's when I could see the silhouette of it. And it was snowing. So I figured for sure there would be footprints up there, and we couldn't find nothing at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what happened to me, man. And it was real. I know that it was 100% real. And it was no animal that I ever encountered,
Yeah. Do you think any of the neighbors heard the vocalizations?
I don't know. I don't know. These people up there kept to themselves. Like I said, they were doe hunters, and there was nobody up there that really hunted them woods. I never seen anybody out there in 3 years. I never encountered another person out there.
Yeah. And how big was the bushes that it was ripping out of the ground?
These bushes were higher than me. It was a mass of bushes to where you had to like walk through them and under them to get through them. And I guess the stalks were over an inch to 2 inches, thick at the bottom. It made a mess out of that stuff.
Yeah. And do you think the creature knew that you were getting ready to take a shot at it, or
Yes,
that you decided not to?
I definitely know that this thing could see me. I couldn't see it, but it could see me. And I pointed that gun at it, Miguel, and I cocked it, and I was going to let it have it because I could tell right where his head was. And when I got actually scared that it was going to rip me out of the tree if I like hit it in the shoulder or something. And it's I thought it would rip me out of the tree and kill me if I missed it. And so I decocked it, and it stopped. Whatever, all that stuff it was doing, it shut right up and took off.
Yeah. And what did your friend tell you? He thought that it killed you, but what do you think it was?
He thought it was a Bigfoot. That's the only conclusion we came to. He said, "Oh my God." He goes, "I can't believe you're alive." That's what he told me. And he never wanted to go back there with me again. He used to hunt with me. He would not go back there again,
Yeah. It
It was
sounds like
crazy.
they harass bow hunters more than rifle hunters.
Well, when I went out in that woods, Miguel, I became a deer. You know what I mean? I'm telling you, man, I was pretty good at it. I became a deer. You know, and I was really familiar with the area, and it was just the craziest thing that ever happened to me in my life.
Yeah.
It really was.
And can you describe the silhouette that you saw on 2 feet?
Okay. When I saw that thing, I couldn't see it climbing up the mountain. When the sky was turning daylight at the top, you get that like blue sky when after daybreak's coming. That's when I could see it, the silhouette up there roaring at me and screaming and yelling throughout the whole valley. You could hear it echoing. And that's when I could see it moving. It was moving. It was going to the left, going to the right, and then it stopped. It was going.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to explore up there more because there was a big pine forest up there. When I went up there, it was snowing and I didn't see any tracks. And that pine forest is like pitch dark inside of there. It's so thick, That's where it went in at. And,
Yeah. How do you think they conceal their tracks in the snow?
I don't know. I just don't know. I think maybe it could have went into that pine forest and there wasn't no snow on the ground in there,
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe they go into the conifers whenever it snows.
Yeah, it was snowing when it went up that gulch. You know what I mean? That's why I tried to find tracks. I just couldn't find anything, I never got a good look at this thing or anything.
Yeah. And did the activity stop after it started snowing?
Every time after daylight came, yeah, it would all stop. It would disappear. It was gone. It was nowhere to be found, I tried to follow that thing every time that happened to me in the mornings when daylight came. There would be no birds, no deer. Like the main deer hunter, nothing would come out. It was all quiet, and I would walk in the direction that it left me just to see what I could see before I'd head back to my truck, and I couldn't find nothing. This thing knew the woods like the back of its hand in the dark. It really did. Better than I did, anyway. But that's about as the best I remember it.
Yeah,
I
that sounds
mean,
like Sasquatch activity to me. And
I don't know what else it could have been, Miguel. You know what I mean? It was huge, whatever it was, because I can tell by the lung capacity. There's no human that can make a sound like that. That sound almost would knock you over, man. It scared the living hell out of you. It really would. It
yeah.
was that loud.
Was there like a steep ravine behind you whenever it
Yeah,
threw that deer?
yeah. It would take me 45 minutes to climb up there, a half hour at least. And that deer came flying, sailing through the air, and came down, almost landed on top of me. It was like 10 feet away from me, and it had a broken back.
Yeah.
And I never dreamed that maybe this thing threw it or nothing. I thought maybe, when I come to think of it now, it couldn't have fell off the cliff because there was no cliff. It wasn't like that kind of a cliff. We called it the gulch. It was like a deep ravine that went down in between the valleys, but you could climb it. You know what I'm saying? You can climb it.
Yeah. Sounds like it was
And then
giving you a deer or trying to
that's what
scare
I
you out.
thought.
Yeah.
Here's your deer, man. Get the hell out of here. Get off the property.
Yeah.
Well,
Did you end up eating that deer?
Say again.
Did you end up taking that deer and cooking it up
Yeah,
for
I
dinner?
took it. I didn't waste it. Yep. We butchered it up. I tagged it. When I pulled the 357 out on this thing and pointed it right where his head was at, and I pulled the hammer back, I had 158 grain bullets that I loaded myself in there. I was sure that I was going to kill it because I could tell right where his head was, and his head was right at my feet. And then all of a sudden I got nervous. You know what I mean? I got scared to do it because if I would have missed and just wounded it, it let me know that it was going to rip me out of that tree. You know what I mean? By what it was doing, it was carrying on, man. And I decocked that gun. You could hear it clicking, and it stopped, and it was looking right at me. And then it went, and it let me know that it didn't want to kill me.
Yeah. And there was no eye shine?
No, I didn't have. I never got a flashlight on it. I never. I was afraid to walk through that. I was afraid to walk out there with my flashlight. After the first encounter, because I knew something was watching me. I used to come home and tell my wife that something's watching me when I'm out there. You know what I mean? I never had that feeling in my life. I could hear it. Something's watching me. And I don't know what it is.
Yeah. It's my
I
theory
started
that they're
getting.
more aggressive in the fall time.
Well, I think that when I was tippy toeing through the leaves with the flashlight, I knew that it was right on the left of me. I could hear it. And I took my shoes off and started walking through the leaves real quiet. And I turned my flashlight off. And I think that it said to itself, well, now he knows I'm here. You know what I mean? That's when it started making all the ruckus and carrying on. After I discovered it for sure, you know what I mean? Because it knew that I was hiding from it with the light off, This thing knew where I was at with that light, you know what I mean? So that terrified me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that is terrifying, especially that it knew where you were going to be every time you went in
Yep,
there, no matter how many times you
every
switched it
time.
up.
I tried to hide from this thing, Miguel, and it smelled me out. I don't know how it knew where I was at, but it was a creature of the wilderness, believe me. This thing was a creature of the woods. It knew that woods, you know?
Yeah.
And there was plenty for it to eat up there. I mean, there was deer all over the place, man, everywhere. And
Yeah.
the thing is, nobody hunted that property, man. This lady didn't let anybody on it, I never even told her the story because I didn't think that I wanted her to know, because her and her husband would have probably laughed at me or something, you know? They would have probably said, "Oh, the bear come through here now and then," which I knew they do, you know, and it wasn't no bear. There's no bear that can do that. There's no bear that can stand 7.5, 8 feet tall at my feet, because that's where his head was, you know, from the tree stand. I mean, it had some size to it.
Yeah.
And the way that thing yelled, man, it carried on. It was bad. It was bad. I mean, it would terrify you. I was shaking, you know.
Well, I'm sorry it ruined hunting for you, and I can't imagine.
Miguel, I never went hunting again after that experience. I never went out in the woods again. I'm done, you know. I'm done. I know there's something out there, you know. It might not be everywhere, but it's out there, you know.
Yeah. Did
It's
you ever
out
go
there,
back
and
to the area to look for any answers?
I went back there with a camcorder to try to get it on video, and I came up with nothing, you know. I did it in the summertime. I went up there in the summertime a couple times, but I didn't go out in the dark in the morning, you know what I mean, when it was dark. I did maybe 9 o'clock in the morning or something like that, you know. I didn't find any signs of anything, you know. It had such a wide area to roam and hide that if it didn't want to be seen, you're not going to see it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The only way you were going to see this creature is if it let you see him.
Right, exactly. That's what I thought. It knew how to do it. Before the sun came up, before that daybreak came, you know, I sat there I sat there shaking, man. Like, you wouldn't believe it. I can't explain it. It's just hard to explain, you know. I can't how loud this thing was. I mean, there's nothing I can't. If I backed my truck up to them bushes and wrapped a chain around them, I bet you my truck wouldn't even pull them bushes out of the ground. My tires would spin, you know. I don't know how it did it. I don't know how it would do something like that. You know, it ripped everything up. It tore it up. You know,
Yeah. Do you think it was the
it
only
was like
creature in the area, or do you think there was more than one?
that. I thought about that, and the only thing that I could say is the only signs I had was from one. You know, I didn't hear any signs of anything else, and it was going around my tree stand in like a 15-yard circle, and I think it was one. I'm pretty sure it was only one. You know,
Yeah.
there might have been another one there with it, but I didn't hear or anything like that. But
Did,
yeah, I'm not thinking right anyway when that happened to me, because it terrified me, man. It truly sunk in, man. You know, to where there's something that can kill you out here really easily if it wanted to.
yeah. Did you get the impression that it was a male or female?
A man, I got the impression that it was all male. Yep. It didn't sound like it had any kind of female hormones in it. You know what I mean? It had a really deep, really loud. It was worse than a grizzly bear roar. You know what I mean? You hear that, and it was different than that. You know, it was just incredible, man. And I'm glad to tell you my story. I held that story in all these years because, you know, nobody believes in that stuff. You know. But I'm telling you, I 100% know that that wasn't a deer, it wasn't an elk, it wasn't a bear. That thing was on 2 feet, 2 legs. You know, 100%. I know that that's what it was. It had to be a Sasquatch.
Yeah, that's what it
What it was
sounds like to
doing in
me.
that area, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
And go ahead. Sorry.
I think that if it's in that area, I mean, that's got a little bit heavier population than the big state forests and all that. But there's plenty of woods up there for them to hide, and there's caves and all that stuff. You know, there's all kind of terrain up there. If it didn't want to be seen, I don't think it would have any problem. You know, covering itself.
Yeah.
I think they're really good at it.
Yeah. And I'm the first person you told this story to, like on a channel?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you for reaching out, Tim. What made you reach out to me?
Miguel, I've been watching you on TV, man. I think you're doing something that's really good, for the people. And I really hope that you get some good evidence of this thing, I really do, man. I watch you every night just about, You got so many shows that I'll never get to the end of them, but
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'm really glad you reached out to me.
I'm subscribed to your channel and all,
Yeah. Well, just watch what you can, and if you find anything interesting, just tune in.
All right, will do, man.
Okay.
If I'm subscribed to his channel, are we under the Pickers Junction?
Yeah, I think so, because that's what my name is.
Yeah, if you see somebody that says the Pickers Junction, that's me.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that with me. Okay. Well,
hey, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Is this going to be on?
Yeah, it'll be on in the near future. I got like 15 podcasts that I did before you, so it might be a little while till it's up. So don't feel bad if it's not up right away.
All right, buddy. Yeah, that was an experience. I'm telling you, man, that for you to anybody to truly understand it, Miguel, they'd have to be there and experience it. I've been stalked by a mountain lion out in Wyoming and everything, and I didn't even get scared, man. You know what I mean? Like that. This thing will truly frighten you, man, Like, you think you're ready to die, That's what I thought. That's why I pulled that gun on it, because I thought it was going to come up that tree and grab me, grab my legs, because it was right there,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the first time. That was the first time that, like I said, it always went around my tree stand. That's the first time it went right under my feet. You know what I mean? And was roaring at me, yelling right there. I thought for sure it was going to rip me out of that tree stand. That's why I pulled the gun out on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame you.
I'm kind of glad that I didn't shoot it, because if I would have killed that thing, I would have probably had a big mess. Who knows what kind of trouble I would have got in or whatever,
Right, you would have had more problems than that thing just stalking you.
That's why I don't want to kill animals. Anything that I killed, I ate. You know what I mean? I never hunted for trophy. I never was a trophy hunter or nothing like that. I just did it. I wasn't for sport. I ate the deer that I butchered it up, and I wasn't greedy. But I just loved being out there. I really did, man. Now I have a camper. My wife and I adopted a young boy, and I have a camper that we have out in the woods, and it's in a more populated area, It's not out deep in the woods or nothing like that, because I know they're out there, Miguel. Be careful, man,
Yeah, I certainly will.
Careful on your adventure.
Yeah, they're out there for sure. And
what kind of gun are you packing?
Just mainly a 9, but I got something bigger. I just need to get shells for it.
I think you need something bigger. I'm telling you. I was worried with the 158 grain. They were solid lead bullets. I loaded them myself, and I loaded them hot loads.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure.
It'll take it down if you hit it in the head. Anything will go down if you hit it in the brain. You know what I mean? But I was afraid that I was just going to miss it right beside its ear or something like that. And that's all I would have had. It was that one chance. And I wasn't sure,
Yeah.
Because it would have definitely took me out. That's what I felt. And that's 100% honest, God's honest truth. I'm not lying to you, Miguel, about this story, man. This really happened to me.
Yeah, I believe you 100%.
My wife's been hearing about it for 30 years. Tell him, hon.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you decided to talk to me and share it here on the channel. I think it'll help a lot of other people who's had the same experience.
Well, I watched your show, and I like the way you do things. You know what I mean? You're not out there, alarming them. Like, I see some of these other shows where these guys are like ridiculous. You know what I mean? Some of the stuff they do,
Yeah.
And I think that you're going to have some luck, man. If you keep it up, you're going to find maybe you can solve this. I hope you do.
Well, I appreciate it, Tim. And,
All right, bud.
All right. Well, you have yourself an excellent day, and thank you so much for sharing your experiences with me.
Miguel, you too, man. And listen, if you have any questions, be free to contact me. All right, bud?
All right. Sounds good. And keep in contact in case you experience anything else.
All right. Good luck, buddy.
All right. Thank you. Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye. All right, Tim, thank you very much for sharing your Bigfoot experiences and encounters with all of us, and it was certainly a frightening one. I don't think that the deer just magically fell down that cliff. It was either being run down by the Sasquatch because of all the activity you were having, or the Sasquatch threw the deer at you. And I have heard this before from other researchers that the Sasquatch will throw animals at people. There was a report here in Missouri where the Sasquatch was throwing goats at a person's house, and it was leaving goat skulls on a person's vehicle, and I don't think it's a coincidence. Also, the way this creature was able to pinpoint your location every time is disturbing, and no matter how you try to switch up your stand locations, it was always able to find you. I also think it's a little odd that it was snowing outside and you couldn't find any tracks. That is unusual, and that does lend credibility to the paranormal and the strange things that are taking place in our world today. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching Sasquatch Theory, and like I said, if you have a Bigfoot encounter that you would like to share on the channel, please contact me at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. Take care everyone, and be safe in your neck of the woods.